marking up the charts, just a pure sort of technical analysis. So I'll start off with the dollar here. As I said, we've got the big push that's come up into a high time frame resistance, which is this zone through here. We had a couple of things that actually sort of limited us, well, not limited us, but sort of gave us an idea that we would see some profit taken from here. If we fill this out, as I said, I'm starting with a blank chart here. So yeah, if you see my other videos, you can see the build all the way through here. But this was the general idea, was this little flag move that we had sort of pushing in through here. And as you can see, we take it from the bottom there, that takes us right up into this zone here as well. So there's no surprise that we do see a little bit of a pushback from these high levels over here. Flag completion, profit taking. That's basically what we're looking at here. So what I'd be looking for on pullbacks is potentially zones through here. You could say this first one up over here, but as you can see, sort of we zoom into this a little bit more. This is on the 4 hour. Yeah, you might get a bit. Look, I'll leave it there, but I wouldn't be sort of banking on this one necessarily right now. I think this is probably a little bit more significant because, as you can see, this is where the sellers actively sold down, sellers actively sold down, sellers actively sold down. As soon as it got above here, it kind of really just popped down. So with any of these sort of lines, you just want more contacts, are generally considered more reliable, because that's where the market has said, yep. Maybe it got through here just to sort of hit stops. And then obviously we had a headline regarding whatever it was, the MOU in that last week. So that sort of pushed that back down there. So if we then sort of put a fib over this last move coming from the lows, which is obviously this week's lows because we gapped down on the Monday, we can see that 38% also lines up pretty well with that area there. So means we could probably still see a little bit more downside with the dollar here. But should we sort of get down to this area, let's get rid of that one. Let's make it a little bit cleaner. Should we see it push down to this area here, we are going to see this third leg up over here. And this is the one that's going to be a major indicator for us, because we're either going to get a lower high in which we can say, okay, you know, maybe it's going to start to sort of consolidate a little bit longer around here. We're going to get a double top, which again doesn't mean that it's failing, but it just also means that obviously because it's rejecting there, we're not moving forward. So again leads to the idea that we're going to sort of consolidate around here, or we get a breakout here. The break above this level here is quite significant. It's a high time frame breakout point. If we do see that, we are going to sort of see everything sort of basically that's bouncing from overnight lows, sort of reattack those lows and then possibly even break lower for that sort of summer trade. Gold. Let's delete all these. So gold, we can see that we had a gap that was set up through here. So this was the Monday move. This is through here. Drag this out, turn it into a gap. And as you can see, price really came down, clipped it pretty much to the cent, and has had quite a strong bounce back up over here. So where it's at the moment, if we actually sort of look at what it's been doing for the bulk of this week, which it's actually been respecting this kind of triangle, it's actually coming up and retesting the underside of that right now. And as you can see, it's sort of slightly reacting to it there. We could also put in a little zone through here. So this one will just be a zone. So line up zone here. So I think this is a crucial area for gold to sort of really determine what's going to happen. Most likely with the structure here, you need to, I think, unless this is just a pure shakeout, close the gap, and now we're back up over here, and this comes out the top side. If it does that, then that's extremely bullish, and we are going to go much higher. However, that's not the norm. Generally, the norm would be a building of the structure. So we would see potentially a move back down into this zone over here. It could be this little area that we did see the market open from the week, but anywhere back into this kind of area between sort of like 42.75 and 42.90. If we see the buyers actively step in there and start to drive back higher here, the first target is obviously to break this bounce high here, because we can see, although it's sort of not sort of completely stopped here, it is sort of stopping and thinking about it. So if we get on a lower time frame, you can see the market's hit it, try to push back, second move into it. This is on a 15-minute, but it's overbought here a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a bit of a drive back down towards these areas here. But that's what I'm looking for to see. Are we going to see the buyers actively move up from this area down here and show that they're sort of actually trying to push this thing back up and actually force the price through those prior levels. If we can't get the, I've already sort of covered if it goes all the way through, if this comes down and we start to see this drive back down towards the lows over here, that's the area that they need to hold. So really, realistically, this is your big break area. So should the price come back down over here, that's your downside move. If it can get up here, you have two levels to sort of, for them to sort of get above. You have this first level here that we're seeing struggle with now. Tap into it first time, push back down, come through a second time, should go through. But even after that, you then need to break through this one. So they're your two levels for the top side to sort of break through. But at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if this move comes back towards that sort of, at least sort of, as I said, 42.70, 42.90 area. If we put a little fib over this one, this is the 4 hour. If we look at this bounce move here as well, we're starting to see this is coming in very close to the 61% retracement as well. So you're starting to build a little bit of a confluence of previous horizontal supports, underside of that triangle, which it was respecting time and time again, obviously top side, bottom side as well, plus the 61% retracement. So for those three reasons and that, I think this should actually sort of push back down here. You would have probably liked to see this RSI show a little bit more commitment as well at this stage. On the 4 hour, 4 hours looking good. But as I said, if this thing goes out the top side, it's going to be very bullish. Structure-wise, I would expect a little bit of a push down before moving higher, even if it were to go higher. Silver. This one over here. Again, let's delete all these drawings, keep it fresh. So with silver, we saw a big bounce on that sort of when it sort of first tackled its, whoops, not that one. When it first tackled its opening level, we saw the buyers push that thing back up and that. So we know that this is a relatively interesting zone for it. It's pushed past it now, so I'm not putting it as much weight on it, but we can see there's a tiny little zone that similar with gold that it's coming into here. We also have a little bit of a triangle that it was respecting. So very similar in price action to what we're seeing with gold. That sort of triangle bouncing through with it all. Something like this even potentially. Top side's not really as relevant here. But we are sort of seeing it come up, retest this underside over here. If we put a fib over this one, we can start to see how strong this bounce is as well. So again, it's coming up very similar, that confluence, underside of this triangle, previous little horizontal, and the 61%. This, I feel, is probably neglected now. I'll keep it in because it could be a little bounce area. So I'm not really getting rid of it at this moment. But I think downside for this as well, if you see a move underneath 67.90, whoops, not that one. If we see a move and close under 67.90, I would say that could be your indicator that you're coming down. Yeah, you could say, hey, you've got to feel the wick. But I think certainly if this thing in the next 4 hours closes down here, then I think that's an idea that maybe we're going to be going down a little bit lower. Similar for the top side, it needs to sort of get above overnight highs and that. I'm not even interested in these areas over here with silver. I want to see it above sort of 71.50 if it is going to sort of move from there. Aussie dollar. Let's get on this one here. And we can see with this one here, it was a little bit more of a sort of a triangle that we were sort of working with, a sort of ascending triangle, which failed to sort of continue and sort of break through. As you can see, it had this sort of move coming up through here, was looking pretty decent, but we had a couple of things. So this was its Monday open, came down and tapped that around RBA, came around, tapped it, bounced back up, like everything did. You know what I mean? This whole week has really just been up and down chop. So it's been blowing people out mentally and financially. But I think mental in this case is worth a bit more. But we've seen a progressive sort of push down from the sellers each time. So you got the sellers over here. Actually, let's do it like this. They moved it down a little bit, so you could see them actively kind of trying to progress and push down. Even with this little bounce up, it was kind of setting up almost for a break to the bottom side here. So what we're seeing with the Aussie here is obviously just a bit of a bounce. Came down pretty much tested into the 90s. Aussie loves the 90s. If you're ever going to try and sort of fade Aussie one way or the other, anytime it comes into the 90s, you got a very high hit chance ratio of at least pulling 20 points or so from these bounces, from the kickback, and that's going both directions, up and down with it all. If we look at just overnight sell down for the Fibonacci, at the moment, it's only managed to get up to the 50%, which, is not too bad a bounce when you sort of consider that, DXY, I know Aussie's not part of DXY, has only sort of come back a very small portion of that. But again, we're starting to see it grind and sort of really find a little bit of resistance moving through this area here. We got a bit of volume coming in. It's 1150 at the moment. So we could see a little bit more of a push. But again, this RSI is not really sort of telling me, hey, look, you know what? I want to sort of really sort of spike back up and take this thing out here. I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a sort of tackle coming down here. Big sort of zone for Aussie is actually sort of not only just overnight lows, but this zone down over here. If you go down underneath 69.80s, a close down here, I think we could open up to sort of mid to low 69 cents.